Chris, I'm going to ask you about what specific role the business community can play in working with education, in making this a priority and then helping them. And then, Sam, I'm going to come to you. We've often said at SREB, you need higher standards. High standards are good. It will move the system forward. But our big challenge, particularly going forward, is helping a much greater percent of students meet those standards, okay? And what role would career tech? And then, Dean, I'm going to ask you to kind of close it down. You have the last word, and then we'll go out of here. Chris.
I have to go back. That was so long, I forgot what my question was. No, I mean, the role, I mean, the chamber and the partnership and the business community, I mean, because you can look around the room and see so many business leaders here that it's critically important to us. And we have gotten involved with things like Work Ready and the charter school and Race to the Top and career academies, and we're looking forward to working with Dean and others on Move On When Ready. So there's all these programs that we're ready to partner with you. The chamber's kind of, it's a little odd position. We're supposed to be the sunshine and puppies and everything's great. So I'm over here talking to the Wall Street Journal about how great everything is and what our progress is. But over here we're working with Stacy and others to try to get the General Assembly and others to move the ball down the field. I think one of the things that the business community can and should do and will do is we've got to pick what those statistics are that show that we're making progress and keep beating that drum and driving that drum to policymakers to say whether it's a funding issue over here or it's a change in policy issue over here. And I think that's part of what we can do through the Governor's Competitiveness Initiative. And we've got a scorecard. We're going to have the Georgia scorecard that we'll have on our website, and you'll be able to break it down in time down by the county to see what are those drivers, whether they're in education or crime or tax burden, whatever those are, but particularly in education, are we making a difference and are we moving the needle? And so I think that's clearly part of our role. But I really want you to take away from this that the business community wants to be a partner. We don't want to nibble around the edges at the problem, though. We don't want to say, well, let's try this for 6 months and try this, and then next year we change and try something else. I know as policymakers we kind of get into that a lot. What we want to say is, all right, here's what really makes a difference. This statistic shows the outcome that we have down here, and let's put our emphasis on making that improvement, whether it takes 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, and let us help give you the political cover at the Capitol to say, give this time to work. Give these folks time to get this implemented. And that's the kind of thing that we want to do. But again, we don't want it to be just a little thing around the edges. We want to tackle the big problem and say this is really going to make a difference. So you've got willing partners, Paul and Dean and others that are here, and we're willing to work with you.
I think each stakeholder has to remember the power of advanced placement opportunities at the high school level, for example. Because when you consider the research, students that have been exposed to advanced placement opportunities succeed at the college level. When you take a look at the research, it's clear even those students that are administered advanced placement exams and score at the level of the one level, sustain themselves in a much different sense at the college level compared to those that do not. So it is important to, again, expose those students to the rigor. However, you have to have embedded in your plans, each individual system, a process whereby you are monitoring across each subgroup the percentage, the proportion of students that are beginning to take advantage of those advanced placement courses, as well as dual enrollment. And so we all know that what gets measured, what gets monitored, gets done. And if you're measuring and you're inspecting what you expect, then you know across a continuum that you're beginning to see more of those students exposed to that. And that's an instant gauge that we can begin to use. And also, we administer the PSAT. That's important for us across the board early on at the middle school level and beyond to assess readiness and look at advanced placement potential. And those results tell you that students, based on that particular quotient from the PSAT, that particular student is ready to be exposed to a particular advanced placement course. And you will find, I would submit to you, that you will find a discrepancy in the students that have posted those results and those that are actually enrolled in those courses. So it is a collaborative effort that is needed between the public school entity communicating with parents as well as the community in reference to to the importance of advanced placement exposure and opportunities as well as dual enrollment, thereby allowing us to center on those items that are already pinpointed about work readiness, for example. And you speak to numeracy, mathematical skills, communication, problem solving. All of these are things that are, from an industry level perspective, are things that the industry level wants to see those students exit high school already prepared. And another way to do that is to embed those strategies that I just mentioned, those skills and expectations across those standards in the things that you are rolling out from a curriculum standpoint to those students. So more of that work must be done, and those discussions are taking place across systems now, more than ever. But I think that stakeholders also must be aware of it and hold the local entity accountable for seeing it in their strategic plans.
Thank you, Sam. Okay, Dean, you've got the final word, and then we're going to open it up.
Well, I think one of the things that has to change if we're going to really deal with this issue of completeness is the culture relative to how we look at each individual student. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Is I serve as the chair of the Georgia Tech College of Engineering Advisory Board, and one of the things we just talked about at Georgia Tech was this notion and the idea that we get these very, very bright students, and then we do everything we can to make it impossible to get through that place. And what I mean by that is we have faculty members, and I'm going to go all the way down the line, we have faculty members who still think it's a great idea to see if they can give tests that no one makes over a 50 and then does the curve. Instead of a culture that says, how do I ensure that you master the subject? They show up as educators, not as instructors. But how they show up as educators to ensure, and this is my own institution of Georgia Tech, is go from an 82 graduate% rate to the MIT of 93%. This is about completion. Last month at the Technical College Board, I challenged our presidents that basically says every student that enters our campuses, we should look at them as individuals and do everything we can to help them complete. And I would say in the K-12 system, it is absolutely grabbing hold of every student. And I'll brag on one of Sam's schools. The principal of Heritage High School, I know this for a fact. There was a student who had missed 4 days of school. He got in his car and went and found that kid. Went and found him. It'd been real easy just to have checked him off, whatever. But he went and found that boy and brought him back. And all I guess I am trying to say is we can do a lot of programs and good, but until we change the culture that every student at every level, when they come on our campuses, matter, and we will do what it takes to help them be successful, that is when this will change.
I just wanted to back that up. I was the I don't know how well I did, but I was Executive Vice Chancellor Assistant from 87 to 94. In 87, the month I joined it, we hired a president of Georgia Tech by the name of Pat Crescine. Pat died last year. He was the one who actually started this idea of faculty, your job is not to flunk these students out, it's to help them graduate. Pat left after 5 years, and this was not the least of the reasons why he had to leave, quite frankly. If there's one thing, it's the priority, that everybody's job is to help these students graduate. And I'm glad, I'd almost forgotten that. Now, we're going to open it up. Statements, comments, tirades, whatever. Questions of the panel to Will. We use sit for questions too, so here we go.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Etienne Legrand again with the W.E.B. Du Bois Society. I have my glasses on because I actually wrote a couple things down because I can't trust my brain to remember. I don't know if I get some nods on that or not, but in any event, I sort of struck just generally as a comment. We've been here and listening and talking for a bit, and the word motivation has never come up in this conversation this morning, and I find myself often in conversations like this where motivation is absent in the discussion, and I want to raise it and see if somebody has a reaction. Fundamentally, I mean, the things I read, I don't know about you, but one study I read said 70% of kids drop out school say they drop out because they're not engaged in learning. They're not motivated. It's boring, whatever, right? That may have implications for the curriculum. But for each of us, we do not lose 1 pound, do not save $1, do not do anything we want to do that we say we want to do unless our behaviors line up behind that in terms of our own motivation and efficacy in pursuit of that. So the notion, yes, I agree, and let me stipulate, I mean, the notion that we are here and want to have our children succeed and help them, I think is right-headed. But students are not passive vessels into which we fill our own expectations for their success. Fundamentally, we have to be looking for how do we motivate students to want to be stronger learners, to learn, to succeed, to enroll. So one question is around, if we have performance metrics around graduation rates and enrollment rates and completion rates at the college level, where are the learning performance goals that I think are a companion to that? So are we rewarding and emphasizing effort and progress and diligence on task and completion? All of these things we all must do in order to be successful. So I'm just curious in the debate about what we need to do better to drive performance and businesses' role. Where is motivation in all of this? How do the policy implications interact with that? And just interested in your thoughts.
From a public school system standpoint, it is extremely important. The motivation piece is extremely important, and I think it speaks to relationship building. We talk about rigor, relevance, and relationships, but when I mention relationships, I mention it in terms of the relationship between the educator and the student. If that is not a component of your discussion, and a huge component and a requirement throughout this process, then none of the things that we've mentioned thus far will be accomplished. So there are huge implications for having the right and appropriate individuals in place, delivering the services to students, and as you plan to do so, ensuring by their previous experiences that they are going to bring those skills of caring to the table to deliver. I'll say many times from a pre-K-12 standpoint, education is still about a calling. And if it is not that calling, then many times you don't have that fiber that's necessary to want to motivate students. And I'll end by saying that it also has implications for what we refer to as the self-fulfilling prophecy. Because if there's additional baggage that the educator has about a student because of a particular subgroup or because of a particular economically disadvantaged situation, then that's going to loom large, sometimes unintentionally, between the delivery of that educator to that student, and then you see those kinds of issues in the results. So you have to have those discussions about what cultural proficiency really means, about what the socioeconomic piece really means, and about the importance of motivating students, and again, building the relationship between the educator and the child to talk about that end result and why those experiences beyond high school are going to be important for providing for families and all of those other kinds of things, and give them the role models and those examples of why that's necessary. So it's a given that the motivation has to be a piece. It's not enough for just to have it in your blueprint in terms of standards. You have to have that other piece that some call intangible as well.